Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. As you can see, I am in a new studio right now. Listen, we've told you it was work in progress for a very long time now, and it's just about wrapped up, just missing some things right here. But as you can see, I got some new equipment. We will have some exciting things in the future, but I wanted to bring you guys back as I make a fun video. This one about taking Spider-Man's legacy and what if we gave it a bold new future. This is how I would write the next Spider-Man trilogy and his next appearance for the MCU. As you can see, we got the red and the blue going crazy. I'm excited because we got a lot of fun things upcoming for Spider-Man that we already know. Obviously, we have Brand New Day coming to theaters at the end of this upcoming July in 2026. Des and Daniel Cretton directing that. Tom Holland set to return as Spider-Man with the Hulk, the Punisher, Scorpion, Sadie Sink, who is clearly Jean Grey. I can call it right now. But listen, I want to talk about how I would write the next Spider-Man trilogy. So Spider-Man 4, 5, 6, and then his other MCU appearances like Avengers or maybe a different movie where he can show up. But first, let's talk Brand New Day. As I've said, obviously we know the director, we know the main cast members, we know who is returning, but they actually officially released somewhat of a synopsis through merchandise the other day, and it's kind of the first real official thing we have other than a teaser. We are obviously going to be getting, hopefully, a trailer in March, so I want to make sure I get this out before then, because there hasn't been a trailer, only just leaked stuff, but you never know what's real. Here we go. Quote, this is what it says. 4 years have gone by since we last caught up with our friendly neighborhood hero. Peter Parker is no more, but Spider-Man is at the top of his game, keeping New York City safe. Things are going well for our anonymous hero until an unusual trail of crimes pulls him back into a web of mystery larger than he's ever faced before. It goes on, it says, in order to take on what's ahead, Spider-Man not only needs to be at the top of his physical and mental game, but he must also be prepared to face the repercussions of his past. So listen, that's crazy. First off, first thing you see, 4 years have gone past. No one remembers him, but he's locked into his grind. He's moving different. Obviously, he's got none of his OG friends, none of his OG community. I mean, last time we saw Aunt May passed away. But does that mean they're skipping the college arc? I don't want to talk about that in this video. Hopefully, they at least show him in his senior year. I'm guessing that the Hulk, or, well, Bruce Banner, obviously, will be Professor Banner in this movie. And I think he would be maybe a senior leaving college. I hope we just get a little sprinkle because, let's be honest, it would be a tragedy to not see the college arc for Tom Holland's Peter, especially with his youthful kind of take on the character, to kind of see that. And I have a feeling we're going to get probably another thing going. But listen, now I want to talk about what I would do for the next Spider-Man trilogy. I think that we are going to see some really cool, fun fan service things, but stuff that really makes sense in the current state of the MCU. Obviously, we know that Marvel is kind of doing a switchback where they tried to get rid of the heart and the soul with Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans kind of being away, and we know they're probably going back on their word on that and bringing them around. I think that's what they should do. I'm excited. I think they're correcting some mistakes, especially from the Bob Chapek era after Bob Iger left. But now that Bob Iger is back giving Kevin Feige full power, I think that they're going to really want to stick with familiar faces over the next 5 to 10 years, maybe 5 to 7 years. And I think absolutely Tom Holland is one of those people. So I don't think we're going to see Spider-Man for the next trilogy and then he's done. I honestly think they're going to age him out. But also that he's going to be front and center with some major storylines. And this is what I want to talk about. So first off, we know a little bit about Brand New Day, but I want to talk about the confirmed, well, almost confirmed contract that Tom Holland renewed with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you don't know right now, My Time to Shine Hello reported on this, but this has also been reported on in comicbookmovie.com. Let's look at it right here. Apparently, after No Way Home, which obviously was his last appearance, there is a new Marvel Sony deal with obviously Tom Holland reprising his role. If you don't know, in layman's terms, Sony has the rights to Spider-Man. That's why you see them putting out the kind of the Venomverse, which sucked, and apparently they're going to reboot it, which is a terrible idea. But the Spider-Verse movies that are incredible, but they worked out an idea or a contract, an agreement with the MCU to have a Spider-Man in that universe. And so right now they renewed that contract for Tom Holland. But apparently he will be reprising his role for 3 more solo films. So that's another trilogy. Spider-Man 4, 5, 6. We obviously know Spider-Man 4 is Brand New Day. And then he also apparently will have 3 additional MCU films, right? And that includes Secret Wars and 2 others. Now, to be honest, I don't think one of those 2 others is Doomsday. I think they'll maybe tease him in that. But I used to think for a long time that Tom Holland would be in that Avengers Doomsday. But I think they're probably going to keep him away because we know we're probably going to get a Spider-Man or maybe even a couple Spider-Mans in that movie. Apparently, Tobey Maguire has a heavy role in that movie, especially in the beginning, apparently. But, so we got 3 new movies in a trilogy, 4, 5, 6. And then we have 3 additional films, including Secret Wars. We know that Spider-Man is obviously a big part of the Avengers Secret Wars Hickman run. You see his legendary black suit on him coming out of the grave. I believe that issue, but he's wearing the black suit. It is obviously a very famous look for him. And that is something that really I think they need to incorporate. Right now we know that Spider-Man 4 will release this summer. Then we know his next probable appearance will be, well, skipping over maybe Tease and Doomsday, it will be Secret Wars. And then we'll probably have a Spider-Man 5. Okay? And then, so that's, 3 of the 6 appearances you have. So I think, obviously, they have this. We're going to start with Spider-Man 4. I'm now going to talk about kind of where I would go with Spider-Man in these movies, how it would set up a potential storyline that includes a lot of grounded Spider-Man characters, which we're already seeing in Brand New Day, a formation of the Sinister Six, some major characters, Doc Ock and a Norman Osborn and even a Harry Osborn enter the picture. And also, what us fans have wanted for a long time, a team up between not Matt Murdock and Spider-Man, but Spider-Man and Daredevil, and maybe going against Kingpin, also known as Wilson Fisk. And obviously, just off the bat, setting the kind of foundation, we know that Kingpin is at a height of a victory against Daredevil. We're going to see Born Again Season 2 coming up here very soon. But we know that there is obviously an arc in New York City about Mayor Fisk going against the masked vigilante, plural, so I say. So let's talk about it. We have Spider-Man 4, where Peter Parker is going to be down on his luck, returning to the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man where no one knows who he is. He's protecting his own solo identity, and he's kind of working back his life. At the same time, you're going to see a lot of grounded characters: Tarantula, Boomerang, Tombstone. You're going to see Scorpion, which Michael Mando, I'm so excited to see him finally have that role. But more importantly, I think someone's going to be pulling the strings. Now, I think at the end of Spider-Man 4, Peter needs to get his symbiote. And I say that because a lot of people would think that's rushed right off the bat. But if you've seen even Venom, every symbiotic appearance, debut in a movie, whether it's Spider-Man 3 or Venom, it has been very brief. It's not some back-ended story where we need to know it came from Null or even a certain part of outer space. It just crash lands onto Earth and finds its way to somebody. I think they can do that. And I think that would be cool to do that at the end of Brand New Day. I think I said Doomsday earlier. I didn't mean that. At the end of Brand New Day. So that we know that he has the symbiote going into Secret Wars. And that way, I think it just sets up a cool conflict between Peter at the end of Spider-Man 4, kind of rebuilding, being down on his luck. And then maybe he doesn't rebuild it. Maybe he's even more down in the dumps. And that's when the symbiote comes in and he turns different. I think that would be really, really cool. But the most important thing is that they have it for Secret Wars when he shows up there. For when maybe he's not pulling his punches against an RDJ Doom in that, or when he comes face to face with obviously Doom, who looks like Tony, and that's so special to Peter. So I think either at the end of Brand New Day or maybe even in the beginning of Secret Wars, they have some time to get the symbiote. And then you're going to go into a Secret Wars where he's going to play a very big role in that based off the comic. I mean, they're going to be on Battle World, all yada, yada, yada. But then from there, everything will reset. But I think that Spider-Man's story will continue. I don't think they're going to condense or soft reboot. Obviously not with his new contract. So I think it would be really cool if in Spider-Man 5, we get Dark Days, Spider-Man Dark Days. Already calling it. We got Brand New Day. Now we have Spider-Man Dark Days. Whatever it is. I think it would be cool to see Venom as a main villain and Peter really having to come at odds about getting away from the symbiote. He's now been wearing it for quite a time at the end of Brand New Day. He's moving different. And I think that would be very cool to incorporate Venom. I also think Spider-Man 5 is where you introduce Harry Osborn, for the love of the Lord. I think a Harry Osborn needs to be a central role in this figure. I think that the MCU is a really cool take on doing kind of original things, and it doesn't have to be a childhood best friend where it's, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. It's they meet. And I think that would be a really cool way to set up the Osborns of that. And maybe that since there's a soft reboot, he doesn't remember his old Norman Osborn from No Way Home. I also think it would be really cool to maybe introduce very small capacity of Miles Morales. At a very small capacity. I think that just to set him up to then be in maybe a Spider-Man 6 where he kind of takes the reins or develops or maybe even gets bit by the spider and then he has his own trilogy. But I think at Spider-Man 5, I think Venom needs to be introduced, Harry Osborn needs to be introduced, and maybe there's some more grounded side characters that are in there. I think that he's still working on his relationship with MJ, with Zendaya. I know obviously the reports are showing a brand new day that he's got a blonde neighbor, whether that's Black Cat or maybe that's Gwen Stacy. Maybe that's a new love interest for Peter, and maybe they explore that in a way, but MJ's kind of at the back of his mind, always, whatever, Spider-Man 5. Now I think, and this is a rumor, is that there will be a conclusion to the, quote, Devil's Reign storyline with Kingpin and Daredevil. And I think that it's also been reported, it's a rumor right now, so take it with a grain of salt, that Peter Spider-Man and Daredevil would team up in a team-up movie. And I think that that is also one of those appearances. I think that would be really smart after a Spider-Man 5 to do a team-up where Spider-Man's back from getting away from the symbiote. That arc is now away, but you still have a Harry. You have set up a Norman, and you kind of know the Osborn family by now. Maybe you introduce in that a Doc Ock as maybe a side character, but he's not obviously his evil self yet. I think that we see the Defenders in that movie, whether it's Return of Luke Cage and Iron Fist. We already know Jessica Jones is around because she's going to be in Daredevil Born Again Season 2. Daredevil will be in that, and I think the main villain of that movie, it will be a Captain America Civil War, where it's kind of an Avengers 2.5. It's like a street-level Avengers movie, and he goes against Fisk for the first and the last time. And that's just an arc in itself. I think that would wrap up Daredevil really, really well before they start exploring other things. Give a theatrical debut to not only Charlie Cox's Daredevil, which is madly needed. Well, technically he was in a small cameo in No Way Home. But also the Defenders. You could bring in Punisher again. It would just be really smart. Maybe there's some setup for a Midnight Suns if there's some other of those street-level characters that hop in there. Maybe Doctor Strange makes an appearance. Whatever. I think that Daredevil team-up movie needs to come after Spider-Man 5. So what we have so far is we have Spider-Man 4 coming out. We have Avengers Secret Wars where he will be in. I think a Spider-Man 5 is necessary where he has the symbiote and he's working on getting that off him and he goes against a Venom that's that arc line. Then you have a team-up with Daredevil. That's his second additional appearance after Spider-Man 5 where it's its own arc in its own self. And now you have two more appearances. To be honest, I think one of the other guest appearances will come in another Avengers movie or maybe an X-Men Avengers style movie because obviously we know the Mutant Saga is next. But I think that for Spider-Man 6, after you have Daredevil and Spider-Man defeat Kingpin, maybe someone else steps into the leadership position and kind of that popularity of New York as a Norman Osborn. And you see a true Green Goblin to end this second trilogy for Tom Holland. And maybe a Doc Ock is arising and they're building a Sinister Six, a true Sinister Six. We see the return of Vulture. We see maybe a Mr. Negative. We see the return of Scorpion. Maybe we see a Rhino. Whatever it is, I think Electro, we see maybe an MCU version of Electro that's back. I think that would just be very smart. And I think in Spider-Man 6, that's just this big end-all kind of fight between Norman Osborn, and you really explored the relationship and friendship, putting it to the test between Harry and Peter and who would be introduced in that spot. But also you see MJ and Peter get back together. And I think this would be where you develop Miles Morales a little bit, who has been slightly introduced, very small, or maybe he's introduced in this movie, and then he takes the reins for a future trilogy. And then after that, again, I would say that third appearance, if it's not before Spider-Man 6, it would be another big Avengers-style event, whether that's, again, an X-Men or big Avengers movie. To be honest, I don't know where they go. I don't know if they redo Kang. I don't know if they go with Apocalypse and make that more of an Avengers and X-Men story. I would love to see that as well. But again, it's all takes place around New York. And so, yeah, that's how I would write that story. I think that's really fun to do. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think for Tom Holland's Spider-Man, there's a couple things that I really want to see. I want to see a Daredevil team up. I want to see the Osborns introduced, and I want to see him have the symbiote, especially for Secret Wars. So I think, again, you're going to have Spider-Man Brand New Day where he's down on his luck and he basically maybe falls even deeper and gets the symbiote at the end of that, or in Secret Wars he gets the symbiote, so he's moving different when he then next appears in Secret Wars. Obviously, we know how that story goes. After that, we have a Spider-Man 5 where he truly goes against the symbiote, and Venom maybe is reintroduced in the MCU, and again, that's that story. That's that main villain. You maybe introduce a Miles Morales and the Osborn family, but not as villains. And then you have a Devil's Reign conclusion with Daredevil for that next crossover event, additional appearance for Tom Holland, where he teams up with Daredevil and they finally take down Kingpin. You maybe throw some Defenders in there, and that's already kind of a street-level Avengers arc. And then you have a Spider-Man 6, the end of his second trilogy, where Peter steps back, reunites with MJ, but after Fisk is gone, maybe his new enemy is the Green Goblin, and he takes him down. And that's kind of what's going on. And then again, I think you have an Avengers-style event for Tom Holland. Hopefully they don't kill him off. I'd love to see a happy ever after ride into the sunset for Tom Holland and Zendaya, especially because that's the real life. But maybe they have a kid, and then Miles Morales takes the reins as the MCU Spider-Man for a bit, and we see Peter pop in there. Or we get another trilogy, and they do some fun things. Either way, I want to know what you think. Tell me, obviously I know I'm kind of jumbling my words, but I want to know what you think. So tell me what you think in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe. Check us out on TikTok and Instagram. Thanks for being here, but that's how I would write the next trilogy and 3 additional appearances for Tom Holland's contract in the MCU as Spider-Man. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for being here. Peace.